Again, my name is Bridget Lake, president of the Oviedo Winter Springs Regional Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to the Health Connections Zoom series presented by AdventHealth. This is our second of 6 healthcare Zoom series. Today's topic is resilience, building strength to overcome obstacles. This topic is timely since we just started a new year. Now, if you have any questions, please type them in the chat box. Our expert will definitely have the opportunity to answer all of your questions. Welcome to our January Health Connection Zoom series presented by AdventHealth. These Zoom series will focus on health and well-being of our community by providing options to help reduce fears, manage stress, and provide tools and techniques to cope in this challenging time. We will be scheduling 4 more of these Zoom series through 2021, so make sure to keep an eye out for those. And now let us give a huge thank you to today's sponsor, AdventHealth. Today's sponsor remarks will be presented by Tim Cook, who serves as the CEO of AdventHealth Altamont. Tim previously served as an administrator for Florida Hospital Apopka, where he oversaw the transition to the hospital's new campus, which opened in 2017. He spent more than 25 years with AdventHealth. Other previous roles include leadership of AdventHealth DeLand, AdventHealth's Heartland Division, and Adventist LaGrange Memorial Hospital in LaGrange, Illinois. Tim, thank you and welcome. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you, Bridget, and good morning, everybody. It really is a privilege and an honor to be part of the Oviedo Winter Springs Chamber community. And I think, this topic, resilience, let me give you a quick update on what's everybody's minds besides the fact that the Tampa Bay Bucks are going to the Super Bowl, is also the vaccines, and everybody's anticipating them and where are they? And so far, AdventHealth has given out about 37,000 of them, and yet there's still plenty of people who are anxious about getting them. And that anxiousness becomes an obstacle to your own peace of mind, your own wholeness. And so I'm sure Leah is going to talk a little bit about how resilience fits into dealing with that. So we look forward to getting everybody in the community, and there's so many vehicles with the county that will be putting the vaccine into use for people and hopefully relieve some of the anxiety that this coronavirus has caused. But it's a great opportunity for us to pull together, support one another, which is what this community has been doing in such amazing ways. So Bridget, thank you for the opportunity to be part of this. And Leah, thank you for being here today and sharing some great perspectives for people to maintain some level of peace of mind in a very, very difficult and unique situation. Thanks, everybody.
Great. Thank you so much, Tim. We really appreciate you coming on today. And today we have Leah Domask. She's the educational manager for the employee health and well-being for AdventHealth, and will be giving the presentation this morning. Leah serves as the education manager for the employee health and well-being team. As I mentioned, she graduated with a bachelor's degree in kinesiology from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee and from Southeastern Oklahoma State University with a master's degree in business administration and human resources. Currently, she is working towards her second master's degree in industrial organizational psychology to further her knowledge on employee performance, motivation, and organizational satisfaction. Outside of work and school, Leah enjoys spending time with her husband and being outside with her 2 dogs, traveling and cycling. Thank you so much for joining us today, Leah.
Well, and thank you so much for having me this morning. I'm very excited to be here. And as Tim mentioned this morning, we're probably all thinking about the Tampa Bay Bucks going into the Super Bowl. I am quite disappointed by that fact, as I am a Wisconsin native and a diehard Packer fan. So a little disappointing to me, but next year, always next year, I'm hopeful. But anyway, thank you so much for having me this morning. I'm really excited to be here and present on such a relevant topic, especially during this time, as Tim mentioned. And this is a topic that I'm pretty passionate about, just because I've been through my own challenges and struggles throughout my own lifetime. And I just hope that The content that I share with you all today will be helpful to you in your own situation, whether it be now or in the future, or maybe it's something that you've experienced in the past that you're still trying to get through. So very excited to be presenting on this topic this morning. So with that, going through just a couple of objectives of what we'll be talking through this morning. And before we really dive into what resilience is, I think it's really important to understand what those stressors are for you. What are those stressors within your life right now, and really thinking about what those are and identifying those, because in identifying those, we can then better come up with some practical strategies for ourselves to build this resilience and hopefully overcome some of these challenges that we might be experiencing. So before we start though, I do have a couple true or false questions that I'd like to get us engaged in this morning. So I do have the chat open. So if you'd like to type your answers into the chat, I'll wait a few seconds. Otherwise, if you'd like to kind of answer on your own. But the first question that I have for you all, true or false, burnout is recognized as a chronic condition. So again, you can go ahead and type into the chat whether you think that's true or false, but I'll wait a few seconds before I move on. So I'm seeing true, true. More true. All right. So let's see, drum roll for this answer, and it is true. So those of you who type true into the chat or are thinking true, you are correct, but the World Health Organization recognizes burnout as a chronic condition based on the severe effects of stress. All right, so the next question, again, type your answers into the chat if you'd like. 43% of workers across the globe suffer from stress in the workplace. Do we think that this one is true or false?
True.
True, okay. We got one true answer. Ooh, we got a false in here. True. We think it's more maybe. Oh, so someone says 75%. So we're thinking it's more. So maybe I'm throwing a trick question at you all. All right, false, more like 75. All right, let's see what we got. So it is false for those of you who said that the answer was more, not quite 75%, but it is at 60% of workers across the globe suffer from stress in the workplace. So still quite higher than 43%. Okay, next one then for you. True or false, stress causes around 500,000 workers to miss work every day. True. All right, I'm seeing a lot of trues coming through the chat. Ooh, a false. I love when there's like all one answer and then someone is deciding to go off on a different direction. False, true, true.
That is a lot of workers. That 500,000?
Yes, 500,000. But let's see what our answer is. So this one is actually false. It's 1 million workers. So we thought 500 was a lot, or 500,000 was a lot, but it's actually 1 million workers to miss work every single day. Hope it's not the same people. Me too. Me too. All right, so then I believe this is the last one that I have for you. True or false, 65% of people report sleep issues caused by stress.
I'm going to say true on that one.
True?
Yeah.
I see we can agree in the chat with some true. Paul says true. Charity says true. True. Kaylin agrees that it's true. Gary, true. All right. It is true. So this one, I didn't trick you with this one being more, but it is 65% of people report sleep issues caused by stress. And that lack of sleep, unfortunately, also leads to even greater increases in stress, which can then lead to, again, that lack of sleep, which is caused by that narcolepsy, insomnia, snoring, sleep apnea. So that stress really does lead to those sleep issues, which can then lead into more sleep issues. But I know that I can definitely relate to this one, that when I have something that I'm stressed about, it kind of just takes up my mind space and doesn't let me fall asleep at night. So I can definitely relate to this statistic here. But like I said before, really thinking about what those stress symptoms are for us. And in defining what those stress symptoms are, we can better think about, okay, how can I cope with these stressors that I'm currently experiencing? So up on the screen here, I have physical, mental, and behavioral stress symptoms. And this looks different for everybody. Nobody experiences all the same stress symptoms. We all see stress in a different way. So again, if you'd like to share in the chat what your stress symptoms are, please feel free to do so. I'll share a couple of mine. So when I am stressed out about something, I get tension headaches. I tend to clench my jaw when I'm stressed out, which then leads to those tension headaches. I have a lack of focus. I can't concentrate. Like I said, really takes up that mind space where I can't really think of anything else because that's all I can think about. I lack of sleep. I don't sleep very well, restlessness.
And it seems you may be able to have a few of these in each category. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. So like I said before, we may experience all physical, maybe all mental, behavioral. But like I said, I mean, I experience symptoms in all of these categories here. So absolutely. Oh, so I see in the chat here that people are experiencing teeth grinding. Yep. Don't eat. Yeah. So sometimes people don't eat and sometimes we go to eating, like stress eating. Maybe we eat too much. Have the opposite problem. I see Gary in the chat. Yeah, so we all experience these different stress symptoms. I'll wait just a few more minutes in case, or seconds here, in case anybody else would like to share in the chat, but don't feel like you have to. This is more a personal thing. But in defining, like I said, these stress symptoms, it can really help us to pinpoint when we are starting to feel stress. So when I have a headache coming on, or if I feel a lot of tension in my shoulders, I know that, all right, it's time for me to take a break, take a step back, and think about what I'm going through. How can I handle this better? So. All right, so I don't see any more comments coming into the chat here, but continue to think about that. But what I would like for you to think about now is what is causing you the most stress right now? And again, I'll share something for me. One of my biggest stressors right now, kind of like what Tim was talking about in his introduction, is the vaccine. A couple months ago, my biggest stressor was that my family was going to get COVID. They live all the way up in Wisconsin and I don't see them. I only see them a couple times a year and I can call them, but still not being able to see them, not being able to be close to them, I worry about them and what they're doing and just hoping that they don't end up getting the virus. But now my stress is, okay, like, are they going to get the vaccine? Is my family, my parents or my grandparents, are they going to be safe? So that is a constant stressor for me, just worrying about my family and making sure that they are okay. Again, this is more of a personal question, so you don't have to share in the chat if you don't want to, but if you do, you can feel free to do so. This is an open space where you can share. But I'll give you just a minute or so to think about this one, even if you just want to write down what your stressors are. And some of us may be experiencing multiple things, but even just writing those things down, hopefully as we go through some of these action steps and building that resilience, we can help you to overcome some of these things that you're experiencing. So family responsibilities, absolutely. Dealing with client, oh yes, dealing with client stress, trying to calm them down, yep. Find solutions in a very difficult time. How should I play the helper to people who have severe problems? So I think you're doing the right thing in referring them to a clinical psychologist, especially if that's not your realm of expertise. They can definitely give those better recommendations, but as far as just trying to be there and support them, trying to just be someone positive and not playing into negativity, but even sharing maybe some things that you do, whether it just be just taking in a nice deep breath every now and then, getting outside, spending time in the sun, real social interaction. Yeah, I think that's something that we can all relate to right now. Definitely. Okay, well, thank you for sharing in the chat. Again, this is another personal question that I'm asking you to think about this morning, but I do think it's important to think about, again, and helping us to define what those stressors are for us. So understanding stress. So I actually did a survey across all of our clinical staff within AdventHealth and asked them, what are your biggest stressors right now? And this was during COVID. And so one of the things, or these 4 things were mentioned the most across our employees. And the first one is life-work balance, which is really trying to define that life versus work, right? And trying to find that fine line between the two of them, especially if you're working from home right now, and trying to define what those two look like. But that was a huge stressor in a lot of our employees, and just not having time for themselves, or maybe always taking care of others, whether that be their family or their friends, their coworkers, and just not enjoying some of the things that they enjoy doing. So their favorite hobbies, whatnot. And then multitasking as well. So trying to take on several different things at once, but that really leads into time restraints, a lack of being present, whether that's not being present with your family, friends, coworkers, again, within all of those relationships. And then really is just leading you to be unfocused and just not being, again, there in the present moment. And then also the environment in which you're in as well plays a huge factor into the stress that you may be experiencing. So whether you have an uncomfortable team or work environment, or maybe it's a toxic home environment, and even just our current environment out in the world right now with COVID-19 and just having to wear our masks and keeping social distance, that could be a huge stressor for people as well. And then as someone said, the real social interaction, not having that like we used to, is also a stressor. And then lastly is the moral dilemma. So this one, I wasn't really sure what this one was, is when they mentioned this one, but in doing some more research and having them explain this to me, it was stress induced by trying to figure out the right course of action. So this, I related especially to COVID-19 right now during the pandemic, and just thinking about, well, should I be going out to restaurants, or should I be seeing my family or my friends, or should I be doing these things? You know, is it right for me? Is it right for my family? Is it right for whoever is out there? So that's another stressor that we could be experiencing right now, and just trying to figure out what is the best thing for me to be doing right now. And is it the best thing for my family or my friends or myself, right? So again, another huge stressor. But these stressors can really start to take over our day-to-day lives. And I, again, really just want us to start thinking about, how do we begin to overcome these situations and really regain that sense of purpose and that focus within our lives? And that's really by building that resilience. So I'm just curious, again, if you want to post in the chat, what does resilience mean to you? And again, the definition is up here on the screen. It's the ability to bounce back after difficult situations. But sometimes people have different definitions of what resilience means to them. But resilience, like I said, is really the ability to bounce back after those difficult situations. And it's not something that we're born with, not a trait that we're born with, but rather a skill that we can learn through practice behaviors and actions. And resiliency really takes away the what went wrong in that situation and really asks us to reshape our mindset and instead consider what went right. So it's really that shift in our mindset. And I see Gary says in the chat here, keep sharpening your saw so you can be more effective in all situations. Oh, I love that. It makes you a stronger person after a difficult situation. Absolutely. And like I said, I've been through my own challenges and I've learned to overcome some things on my own. And I would definitely agree with that for sure. But it's not easy, right? It's something that we have to practice and learn, and it takes some time. But there's 4 different domains of resilience that I'll just touch on real quick here. But these are from the HeartMath Institute, and they relate to the mind, body, and spirit connection. So resilience, as defined by the Institute, is the capacity to prepare for, recover from, and adapt in the face of stress, adversity, trauma, or challenge in relation to these 4 domains. So physical resilience, as defined by, or is defined by a person's physical flexibility, their endurance, and strength in those difficult situations. Their emotional resilience is a person's ability to self-regulate, have a positive outlook, maintain supportive relationships, and again, really just shift that mindset to look at the more positive side of the situation. that mental resilience involves the ability to maintain focus and attention and also see multiple points of view. I like that last point there, and trying to just see multiple points of view rather than just having one point of view, right? And then lastly is the spiritual resilience, which is associated to being able to commit to your core values, your intuition, and just again, that tolerance of others' views and beliefs. So in thinking about these 4 domains, I would just like for you to think about, again, you can post this in the chat if you want to, but how do we feel physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually when we're stressed out? How do we feel in each of those domains? Again, we went through those stress symptoms. So when I'm stressed, I know that I tense up, I can't think clearly, I don't exercise like I should, I probably don't eat like I should. More negative thoughts come into my mind than those positive ones do. But when I feel confident, when I feel stronger, when I feel I can overcome the challenge, right, that really helps to reshape my mindset. So again, in defining those moments of stress and thinking, all right, I need to take a step back, I need to take a moment to breathe, we can allow ourselves to feel more confident, we can then regain that focus, we can feel stronger in our abilities to overcome these challenges and really move forward in handling that situation in the best way that we can. So
I was just saying that I noticed when I'm more stressed out, I get more tired than I normally am.
Oh, absolutely. And I can definitely agree to that, or I can relate to that too. Again, because I think it just takes up my mind space and I'm trying to focus on a million different things. So yeah, I can definitely relate to that. But there's 10 steps of building resilience. So these are all defined by the American Psychological Association, and we won't be going through all of them, but the 3 that I think are most important are number 3, 4, and 5. So that's really embracing change, being optimistic, and then lastly, nurturing yourself, which is my personal favorite, but we'll be going over these 3 specifically. But again, just keeping in mind those 4 domains that we just talked about as we dive a little bit deeper into each of these steps here. And so the first one that we'll talk about is being optimistic. So when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I really like that quote because I think it really is true. So for example, let's say that when we get a new car, for me, my new car, if I had a choice, would be a Jeep Grand Cherokee. But I tend to notice those Jeep Grand Cherokees a lot more than any other car. But that's what I'm focusing on, right? So that goes the same thing or the same way. When we focus on the positive things, we're going to see more positive things. But if we're focusing on the negative, we're going to see more negative. So it's really a mindset change. What are you choosing to focus on? And it really comes down to that choice, right? What are you choosing to focus on in your day-to-day? So just trying to see those things in a different perspective, focusing on more of the beautiful things in life, rather than getting stuck in a problem. Maybe consider the solution, or maybe consider what you've already done well in a situation. Rather than focusing on your setbacks, focus on what you've done well already. What has moved you forward? And just lastly, I know for me, COVID-19 hasn't necessarily been a super positive experience, not being able to see my family and my friends. But one thing that has come out of COVID that's been a positive for me is connecting with my family via Zoom or FaceTime. That's something I would not have done otherwise, but it really opened that opportunity for my family. We do game nights now over FaceTime. We just made dinner with each other over FaceTime the other night. But again, they live all the way up in Wisconsin. But had COVID not come around, we probably would not be doing that. So instead of me focusing on the negative, all of the negative things that have come with this pandemic, I'm choosing to see that my family and I started something super awesome. And it's probably something that we're going to continue to do even after the fact. But again, really trying to focus on some more of those positive things. And also focus on what can we be grateful for, even in these difficult situations. And sometimes it can be really hard to think about what we're grateful for, but practicing gratitude can really help us to reshape our mindset, and focus on the great things that we do have in our lives. And studies from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services have shown that regularly practicing gratitude helps to increase emotional well-being, which therefore allows you to better cope with stress. So we are going to practice that right now. Actually, I'm going to give you just 1 minute here, and you can write down what you're grateful for on a sheet of paper if you have that in front of you. You can open the notes on your cell phone, type them in there if you'd like, or my personal favorite, I love when people type them into the chat, just because I like to see what everybody else is grateful for, because it puts a smile on my face. And it's a good reminder of like, oh yeah, that's right, I have that too, I'm grateful for that too. So I'm gonna give you 1 minute.
It's very interesting. I had a friend actually do what she was grateful for every day, and she put it in a box so that when she was having a difficult day, she was able to just like pull those little scraps of paper out and unfold them and say, yes, it could be something as simple as, you know, I'm grateful that it is sunny out today.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that it's not in the 30-degree weather today.
Yes, and absolutely, those small little things that we can be grateful for. But I like that point, and we're going to come back to that in just a second. But I'm going to give you 1 minute here. Let me put my timer so I know where we're at. All right, 1 minute. So I encourage you to write it down or type it in the chat. 1 minute starting now. All right, about 15 more seconds. I'm doing this activity with you. All right, 3, 2, 1, and stop. Oh, we got some good stuff coming to the chat here. Okay, great. I'm going to start reading through these. Grateful to not live in New York anymore. Good health, positive attitude, your family, children, friends, coworkers, health, unconditional support from family. Grateful for having wonderful parents. Me too. Grateful that the chamber has found ways to keep people engaged while people are still figuring out the new world. Aw. It's always helpful when your workplace is supportive like that. So I love that this is happening for all of you today. I love that. But even like Bridget said, even just being grateful that the sun is out, or grateful that it's not 30 degrees, or I think it was 10 degrees up in Wisconsin when I talked to my parents last. So grateful I'm not up there shoveling snow. But if anybody else would like to continue sharing in the chat, please feel free to do so. I love reading what other people are grateful for. Really does help to put a smile on my face. But like what Bridget was saying before, even just writing down once a night, maybe before you go to bed, or as soon as you wake up in the morning, just saying 3 things that you're grateful for. I know one of our physicians over our campuses, she does with her children every night. They write down 3 things that they're grateful for before they go to bed. And she was saying that one night they forgot to do it, and her youngest daughter, who's 3, was like, wait, Mom, we didn't practice gratitude. I didn't get to say what I'm grateful for. So I think it's a great way, again, to reshape that mindset. And there's lots of research out there showing that even just practicing gratitude once a day can really help in reshaping that mindset. Okay, so the next one then is embracing change. So life is ever changing, especially in these current times. And sometimes all we know for certain is that there will be change. So being able to adapt to this change in a positive way. And if we learn to shift our focus on the things that we can control versus the things that we cannot, some of our stressors and worries may start to subside. And even with these stressors that we're currently experiencing, learning to embrace them and cope with them in a healthy manner can help us to more effectively overcome the change and these different challenges that we're facing. And if needed, we can define a worry space. So within one of our classes that we teach, one of our authors, physicians within AdventHealth defines a worry space for us to just consider our thoughts. Think about the things that we're going through. So whether this worry space be a park bench outside, or maybe it's a comfortable chair in your home, or maybe it's a place within your office if you need somewhere in the workplace, a chair in your office, but just somewhere where you can go and sit, think about what you're going through, think through your next steps. And then once you leave that worry space, so once you leave that chair in your living room or the park bench outside, you leave those stressors there. You don't take them with you.
Leah, I think you're starting something here. I have a couch in my office, and I could see everyone on the team saying, this is my new worry space. I need to come and relax for a minute.
Yeah, but even just sitting, like thinking about what am I going to do from here? I'm feeling stressed. I need to take a step back. Just sitting in that worry space and then leave those worries there. Don't let them follow you throughout the day, but really designating that space as your worry spot so you can think through what it is you're going through, right? So that's another thing, and just thinking about how can we move forward from here and how can I embrace this change, and just defining that worry space. So we are going to right now go through another activity and thinking about the things that we can and cannot control. So again, feel free to share in the chat if you'd like. You can draw this down on a piece of paper if you'd like in front of you, but thinking first about the things that we cannot control, all right? So I have some examples that I'll share up here on the screen. The first one, the one that I hear the most, is that I cannot control other people, which is very true. And then also the current pandemic, can't control what's going on with that. But if you have any others, feel free to type them into the chat, and just thinking about what are some things that we cannot control. Okay, I'll give you 30 seconds or so if you'd like to type your thoughts into the chat, and then we'll move on to the other side. Can't control the weather. No, we cannot. I personally am really enjoying this cooler weather. I'm not a huge fan of 90 degrees every single day, but I do like the 60s.
When's the last time you were up in Wisconsin?
I think it was October, actually. My husband and I actually got married in Wisconsin in October. So we drove up with just very small, I got to see my family, but it was October, which is still kind of a long time, but.
Was it chilly when you were up there in October?
It was, I think, in the 50s, which is perfect fall weather for me. The leaves were starting to change. It's like the perfect day.
I love Gary's response.
Yep, economic conditions, but mostly the behavior of anyone but ourselves. Yeah, we can't control those other people. Absolutely. So that takes me into the other side then, what we can control, and that's going to be our attitude and our choices. What are we choosing to do? How are we choosing to react to those other people, even if they have a really negative mindset, saying negative things? We have the choice of how we're going to react to that situation. And again, we can post in the chat any other thoughts, but ultimately it comes down to how are you reacting to those certain situations, and what are you choosing to see on a daily basis, right? So like we talked about before, are you choosing to focus on the positive things that you have within your life, or maybe choosing to focus on the negative? And that can really make a huge difference in the way that we see the world around us, the way we see other people, our perspective. How much I eat and my exercise schedule. Yeah, absolutely. How much you're taking care of yourself. That's another choice, right? How much you're choosing to nurture yourself. And that's our next one that we'll be talking about. Yes, I love it too, Brenda. Very true. And that's a good segue. Oh. Can control your reactions and how much you let it get to you. Yeah. Absolutely. Sometimes those things are outside of our control and we can't control those things. So just letting some of that go. And sometimes it's hard, right? How you control spending your time and who you spend it with. That's another huge one too. So choosing to surround yourself with those people who are going to leave a positive impact on you rather than negative. I love that. Thank you again for sharing in the chat your thoughts. But like I said, the next one that we'll talk about is really nurturing yourself and taking that time to take care of you. One of the biggest things that I tell our employees within AdventHealth is that we cannot go out and take care of other people if we are not first taking care of ourselves. If our bucket is empty, we can't fill someone else's bucket, right? So just making sure that we are taking the time for us, taking time for ourselves, and just finding that time to unwind, do the things that we like to do. Taking that time for yourself is so important. And our jobs, our family, our friends may require us to give a lot, but I want you to think about that time that you give to yourself. And taking a moment to reflect on yourself and your thoughts can help you to get through some of these more difficult moments within your life and help you to overcome some of these stressors. And studies have actually shown that those who participate in a rest day and take time for themselves actually live longer than those who do not, due to lower levels of stress and increased sense of well-being. So that I really encourage you to be intentional about scheduling time for yourself and really making yourself a priority. I know my husband and I we have little like date nights that we schedule on the calendar, because if we don't schedule them, it's not going to happen. So we schedule that time to just spend time together, take our dogs for a walk outside at night after dinner, but just making that a priority. So it's something we see on the calendar, we do it. I, again, really encourage you to schedule that time for yourself, whether it be I'm scheduling from 5 p.m. to 5:30, I'm going to exercise tonight, or I'm going to read, or I'm going to take a bath. That was my mom's thing. We knew that if she was in the bathroom, my brother and I better not be knocking on the door unless one of us was dying. We better not bother her, because we knew that that was her time to just relax and unwind. And she did that so that she could be better for us. So again, just taking that time for yourself and letting your family know that, hey, I'm going to take this half hour for me. And I can see in here, yeah, a difficult one being a mom, working on it and making me a priority first. Well, hey, that's the first step, Lisa. Even just thinking about it is the first step. So I think that's awesome. But the next one then, as some of you mentioned, is exercise and just getting out and getting active. So find something that you enjoy doing, whether it be running or Zumba or weightlifting. Exercise has so many different benefits, such as stress relieving, boosting endorphins. And it's really recommended that you are receiving 150 minutes of moderate activity each week. So that means 30 minutes, 5 times a week. However, you can break that up into 10-minute segments throughout your day. So maybe it's a 10-minute walk after or before breakfast, right when you wake up, 10-minute walk during lunch, 10-minute walk after dinner. You can break it up throughout your day if you don't have that 30-minute time frame. But just thinking about how you can get more activity into your day. So whether that is parking farther away, taking the stairs, finding a walk, or taking a walk during lunch. That's something, again, that I schedule. I have a timer every single day that I tell myself, get up, go take a walk. You've been sitting too long. So on my lunch break, that's what I do. And then also just find someone to hold you accountable as well. So whether that be a friend, a spouse, partner, whoever that might be, a child, a dog. I know my dogs are good at holding me accountable. They sit by the door and like, Mom, we want to go for a walk. But also with that exercise and getting in that activity, making sure that we're taking that time to rest. So getting that good night's sleep. It's recommended, again, 7 to 8 hours a night, or it's actually recommended that if you have a stressful job that you get 9 hours of sleep at night. And again, this might be something that you schedule. I know that my Apple Watch, or even with some other watches, or if you have something on your phone, you can schedule like, okay, time for me to start winding down, get ready for bed. So my bedtime, I think, is 10:30. My phone or my watch tells me at 10, all right, time to start winding down, put your phone away, go get ready for bed, pick up your book, But that's just a reminder for me to make sure that I'm getting in my rest and I'm not up all night reading or scrolling like I shouldn't be, but just making sure we're getting in that rest at night as well. But one thing that I want to point out, I know, Bridget, you mentioned that when you're stressed, you get more tired. And I can relate to that, and I'm sure others can relate to that as well. But if we're not getting that rest that we need, that leads to even more stress. And then we're feeling sluggish. We don't want to exercise. We don't want to take the time to eat well. We maybe are more quick to snap in our relationships. We're just not ourselves in that moment because we're tired and we're stressed, right? So that rest, getting that rest can really help to alleviate some of those things. So really important that we're getting in that rest.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get back on the exercise thing. I got the rest thing down.
It's all a work in progress. But then lastly, the nutrition piece is also really important. So I want to, again, if I had my Jeep Grand Cherokee, that's my premium car. I would be putting top quality gas in that premium car because I want it to last. Or maybe if you're thinking like if you had like I don't know what fancy cars are, like a Corvette or a McLaren, or I don't know. You're a fancy car. Pick whatever you want. I'm not too much of a car person. I don't know. But if you had a fancy car, you're going to take care of that car because you want it to last. And I want you to do the same thing with your body as well. Make sure that you are fueling your body in the best way possible because we want your body to last. And that's what's going to get you through your day. So by fueling right, by eating that positive fuel, you're going to be able to get through your day. But if you are fueling your body with vending machine snacks or not fueling at all, that's not going to give you the energy to get through your day. So just making sure that you are eating those healthy foods, so fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, rather than those super sugary foods, sugary drinks, or just highly processed foods like chips or cookies, those kind of things. We don't want to be eating those kind of things because that's not going to give us lasting energy. It'll give us energy maybe for 30 minutes or an hour, but then we're going to crash after that. So by eating those whole foods, that's going to give us energy for a longer amount of time and just make us feel better, right? So just making sure that you're eating those nutritious foods as well, making those choices, because again, that's a choice, right? So just thinking after just talking through those 3 steps, I would like for you to go ahead and post into the chat maybe some things that you'd like to start doing within your life, whether that is practicing gratitude more, or maybe scheduling time for exercise, or scheduling time just to be on your own, 30 minutes throughout the day, or just taking a walk more, or maybe it's just trying to focus on more of the positive things, making those positive choices. So go ahead and post into the chat something that you would like to start working on. I know for me, one thing that I have been trying to work on, especially with this new year, is just taking the time to just stretch a little bit and just kind of unwind, because I feel at the end of the day, my shoulders are up to here and I'm stressed out. So maybe just taking the time. Bridget, I see you stretching a little bit there.
I'm with you on that one. I have when you sit at a desk all day, you tend to have your shoulders just hunched over, and sometimes you're looking and squinting and everything just kind of gets very tight right there. Mm-hmm. I love getting massages. That is such a treat for me.
Oh yeah, me too. And it's stretching, I found definitely helps, and it helps me sleep better at night too. I'm not all tensed up and helps me sleep better.
I told you were going to start something here, Leah, when Paul says utilizing Bridget's couch more.
That. And I see Lisa says the same thing. That's awesome. But I also see Kaylin is going to start eating healthier. Oh, starting to organize your work and home space. So making a more healthy environment. We did talk about that. So reconsidering the environment that you're in. I know when I first started working from home, I was working at my kitchen table. And then we transitioned one of our guest bedrooms into an office, and that made a world of a difference. Like I have a window here now, I have a plant over here with a couple pictures, but just changing my environment made a huge difference of how I was working. So that's a really good point. I love that. Okay. But any other thoughts, of course, please post them into the chat. I love seeing your comments, and I really appreciate all of you being engaged in the chat this morning throughout all our activities. But with that, I just want to say thank you for spending your morning with me and listening to what I had to say on resilience and just, again, participating in the chat. It really does make it that much more enjoyable for me and for others as well. But thank you.
Leah, now before you leave, I know people probably have some questions. I know I have a few. One of them is, are children more resilient than adults? You always hear they can get through things easier than adults. Is that true or is that false?
That, I honestly don't know the answer to that question. However, I would say that I think children are definitely more open to seeing more of the positive things within the life rather than choosing to focus on the negative. I feel that their imagination and the way that they see things through a child's eyes are just so much more positive than sometimes the adults see. I know even just me, we can get focused more so on like the bills or the house payments or anything that's going out in the world, but the kids are so focused on this, well, you know, it's a nice day out today, or I'm spending time with mom, or I'm spending time with dad. Like my day is made. So I feel like they see definitely more of the positive, and I think it's something that we can look to in terms of just trying to focus on just the small, tiny things that we have, is spending time with someone, right?
Yeah, I know you were talking about what to be grateful for. I know just this morning, I was very, very grateful for how soft my pillow was and how I didn't want to get out of bed. And I was like, I have the softest, best pillow ever.
Yeah, just being grateful for those small things for sure can help to reshape the mindset a little bit.
Well, if nobody else has any other questions, we did get a lot of thank yous in the chat box. So Leah, again, from us at the Chamber and from our participants, thank you so much for coming and joining us this morning. Thank you again to AdventHealth. We will have another Health Connections Zoom series scheduled in February. So be on the lookout for that. And everybody have a wonderful day. Keep thinking about how to be more resilient and less stress. Thank you so much, everyone.